October 2nd. 331 BC Darius, king of Persia, defeated by Alexander at Arbela, losing 300,000 men. 322 BC Aristotle, the celebrated Greek philosopher, died. It is said that he threw himself into the Euripus because he could not satisfactorily explain the cause of the tides. He was the first person on record who was possessed of a private library. 1346. The Scots under King David took Liddel castle in Cumberland, after a siege of 6 days, beheaded the governor, plundered the abbey of Lanercrost, and then directed his march towards Durham. 1394. Richard II, having made a truce with France, landed in Ireland with a large force. He succeeded in reducing the natives to obedience, who in the absence of the English barons and knights, had intercepted and refused the revenues. The country was divided, at that time, into different kingdoms. 1410. The heroic Earl of Warwick was retained under covenant by Prince Henry, at a wage of 250 marks. Whenever he should be in the king's court, he was to have 4 esquires and 6 yeomen with him, and diet for them all, and the prince should have a third part of what he acquired in battle, and the third of the thirds of what should be taken by Richard the Earl's men-at-arms. 1629. Peter Burrell, a French bishop, distinguished for his learning and exemplary piety and virtues, died at the altar while performing Mass. 1661. Barton Holyday, an English divine, died, known as the author of several literary and theological works. 1693. Charles Patton, a distinguished French physician, died at Padua. At the age of 14 he maintained the disputation for 5 hours in Greek and Latin, and took the degree of Master of Arts. 1710. The conquest of Port Royal, or Annapolis Royal, completed by the British and colonial forces under Colonel Nicholson. 1711. Memorable fire in Boston, which swept down Cornhill, and other streets, and was attended with loss of life and limb. 1724. Francis Timoleon de Choisy, a French ecclesiastic, died. He was sent by the French government to convert the Emperor of Siam, who had expressed a wish to embrace Christianity. He wrote several historical and other works. 1746. The French East India Squadron destroyed at Madras by a hurricane. 1780. John Andre, a British officer, hanged at Tappan, New York, as a spy, while Arnold made his escape to the British headquarters, where he received £10,000 and a commission in the army, as a reward for his treachery. 1780. A violent hurricane in the West Indies, which devastated the island of Jamaica. In one town of 200 inhabitants, not a vestige of man, beast or habitation was left. 12 men of war were lost, and in most of them their entire crews perished. 1782. Charles Lee, a major general in the Revolutionary Army, died. He was an officer in the British Army at the age of 11, and distinguished himself in 1762 under Burgoyne in Portugal. He joined the American Army at the outbreak of the war, but was suspended after the Battle of Monmouth, for some improper conduct. 1786. Augustus Keppel, a distinguished British admiral, died. He accompanied Anson in his voyage round the world. 1801. Augustus Ferdinand Veltheim, an eminent German mineralogist, died. He published several valuable scientific works. 1803. Samuel Adams, governor of Massachusetts, died. aged 82, distinguished as a writer and a patriot, and for his influence in forwarding the American Revolution. Of stern integrity, dignified manners and great suavity of temper, he and John Hancock were proscribed when a pardon was offered to everyone else. 1812. British cannonaded Ogdensburg. 1841. James Fraser, the founder and publisher of Fraser's Magazine, died in London, when literature lost an earnest supporter, and literary men a generous patron. 1842. The United States sloop of war Concord was lost on the rocks in the Mozambique Channel, and 1 or 2 of the crew perished. 1842. William Ellery Channing, an eminent Unitarian preacher of Boston, died at Bennington, Vermont. He was born 1780, and ordained 1803 at the Federal Street Church. He was honored throughout Christendom for his learning and eloquence. 1846. Benjamin Waterhouse, an eminent American botanist, died, aged 92. He completed his studies in Europe, and graduated at Leiden. On his return home was elected to a professorship in Harvard University. 1848. Henry Birkbeck, an officer of the Revolution, died at New London, aged 94. He retired from the public service in 1815, having spent 38 years in almost incessant activity.